Hey, folks, welcome back to LettermenRow.com. I am Jeremy Birmingham. This is Talking Stuff, the Ohio State recruiting podcast brought to you by Lettermen Row and Buyers Automotive. If you're looking for an auto, head to buyersauto.com. If you're looking for stuff, stick right here. Today, myself, Zach Carpenter, and Spencer Holbrook, and a special guest. We'll be talking about some key factors coming up in the Ohio State defensive line recruiting efforts. And we're going to try to break down a little bit about the changes coming to LettermenRow.com with On3 Sports that began in earnest on Thursday morning. So stick with us and let's get to the show. Welcome, fellas. How's our day? How's everyone?
It's going off without a hitch, right? No issues at all. Everything's been going just so smooth. Nothing, no complaints at all. Spencer, same.
It's a big day. I was reading through the Lettermen Lounge, and I love that, by the way, the Lettermen Lounge, and was finding out some things about our new people, our new homies, the subscribers. It's been a good day.
Yeah, I want to be clear with people, and I feel in some way, I don't want to say bad, but as I said when we met on Monday, when we were at Roosters doing the live version of Talking Stuff, that we don't exactly know everything that's happening either. So, for us, we've been dealing with the independent life for a while. We're not a part of independent life anymore. We're not part of a network, the On3 Sports Network. And so there are things we're trying to adjust to. Zach's content, my content initially is going to be, I guess, pretty heavily behind a paywall. But I didn't know that until Thursday morning. So now I do. And I don't like that. So I want to be clear because I feel bad about that at times. But I also hope that people out there watching this, listening to this, heading over to LettermenRow.com understand that what we're asking is for about 3 cents a day to give a chance to our work and to support it in this first year as we're part of a network. And Spencer, most of your stuff, your content will still be free as covering the team side of things. But for analysis and recruiting stuff, Zach and I are going to be tucked away. But it's 3 cents a day, and I feel like that's reasonable. Do you or not?
And I wanted to say something like, we're not just going to be sitting here overselling it and hammering you over the head with it about how awesome our content is. Just a must read, that type of deal. And just like really just beat a dead horse with that. It's going to be really good stuff, but let us prove that to you. It really is. It's not an overly expensive option right now with the deals we have going on. So, I back it up. I think it's worth it. I know it's going to be worth it. In the short and long term.
Berm, I think
yes,
tucked away for 3 cents a day can be a little bit of a tagline that you've got going there.
I already have it tattooed. I'm not going to show you though. I just don't want people to feel like we're trying to pull one over on them or, pull the rug out from underneath them or some other directional thing that involves a cover of some sort. We're learning, and we're going to, do the best we can to make sure that it's worth your money, even if that is only 3 cents a day. I take a lot of pride in the work we do and how we've always done it. I know that's one of the reasons why we went after Zach. We really liked the content that he was making with 11 Warriors and the deeper look at players that the Buckeyes are recruiting. And, the big thing for me, and I've talked about this and Spencer will attest over the last couple of years, I really think that it's vitally important for our website to have a community base and a community feel where people can get together and talk, and not just talk about Ohio State football or recruiting, but I want to talk about everything with people. And that's why the name of this show is Talking Stuff, because in my ideal world, this show would be about a lot more than just recruiting. We would talk about pop culture. We would talk about food. We'd talk about beer. We'd combine all the elements of Lettermen Live and road beers and everything else into one show. And as we continue to grow, we might see more of that on this show. I don't know. I know Zach likes to talk, to wax poetic about random stuff. So I just want people to know that we're adjusting with you. And if there's questions, concerns, comments, you can email any of us, Zach at Lettermen Row, Spencer at Lettermen Row, Berm at Lettermen Row. Find us on Twitter. Any way that you can reach out to us to say, hey, this is not what I thought, or this is what I'd like to see change. We're open to it. So please use us and give us an opportunity to earn your money as much as we've earned your trust over the last few years.
And if I add to that, I think I got my 3 cents worth today. Somebody mentioned that there was a highly ranked guy that was, on the fence about committing to Ohio State or looking into Ohio State, and you just went ahead and dropped the name in there, Berm, for people. So, I mean, like, I got my 3 cents out of today because I didn't know that. We hadn't discussed that at all. And you just dropped that, that bomb in the Ask Anything talking stuff chat already in the Lettermen Lounge. And boom, these people have their money's worth already. So I think it's going to be a great thing for Lettermen Row. I joined a year after you and Austin and Will started this thing. And I'm really excited to just continue to move forward and see where this thing takes us.
Yeah, me too. Me too. But, it's just going to be a process. So I'm asking people to stay patient with us, give us that opportunity to earn it. Zach is going to have a lot of stuff coming throughout the month here that I think you're really going to want to read. I'm going to do my best to keep, making sure that Ohio State recruiting is covered the way people have seemed to enjoy it over the last few years. And Spencer and Zach and I and other people that we bring into the fold here in the next couple of weeks will be doing our best to make sure that those message boards are an active, engaged conversation. So, with that said, we should probably figure out what we're talking about today. I'm talking stuff presented by Buyers Auto. And guys, like, there's an undercurrent of doubt creeping into Ohio State recruiting fans' minds, I think, about the defensive line, right? Like, what is going on? What is going on the defensive line? Why isn't anyone committed? Why has Larry Johnson not had anyone commit yet? So we're going to talk today almost exclusively about the defensive line. And we're going to start by bringing in Nikki Chavanel, who covers national recruiting for On3 Sports. She was recently in Oklahoma, and she was there with Chris McClellan, who a lot of people thought was going to commit to Ohio State early July and hasn't yet. So we're going to ask Spencer to go get himself a drink of water. Zach and I are going to talk to Nikki, and then we'll be back with Spencer after that. So give us 1 second. We'll be back with Nikki Chavanel from On3 Sports. Okay, we're back. Thank you for your patience. Nikki Chavanel, On3 Sports, Zach Carpenter, Jeremy Birmingham, and Nikki. We were talking going into the break about the defensive line and Ohio State's recruiting efforts there. The Buckeyes want like 5 or 6 dudes at that position in 2022. And last month, when Chris McClellan made his official visit to Ohio State, he told me when he left that he was going to go home, talk to his parents, because he thought like it was done. Ohio State made a very concerted push to get him to understand the value of being the first guy in that group. And now here we are 5.5, 6 weeks later, and he hasn't committed. He visited Oklahoma last weekend, and Buckeyes fans all across the country are tightening. Like, what you went and saw Chris a few weeks ago. What was your vibe that you got from him there at Owasso?
Yeah, well, he was definitely mentioning Ohio State a lot. That was top of mind for him. And I talked to his head coach. I talked to his teammates. I asked them where he thinks, where they think he's going, and they said Ohio State. But for him, he did mention he might still want to take other visits, even though he didn't plan any other visits. He mentioned Clemson is discussing, something with him. So it just feels like maybe he's just not quite ready to shut his recruitment down yet, because he was a late kind of star
bloomer,
that bloomed. So he didn't get those bigger offers until, later in the spring and in the summer. So maybe he's just not quite ready to shut it down.
Yeah, and Nikki, I mean, I know he talked about Ohio State sort of maybe pushing a little bit. I mean, like we've said, no defensive line commitments. I think Burma's talked about Ohio State wants Chris McClellan to be the first one in that class. So did you get any sense that maybe he was kind of turned off by the idea that they were pushing, or do you think that really didn't play any sort of factor with his decision?
No, I don't think he was feeling negative about that. I think he likes that they, are prioritizing him. I asked him if he felt that way with Alabama, because, I have a focus on the Crimson Tide, and he mentioned, well, Alabama doesn't really do that, but they kind of do if they really, really want you. So I think he does appreciate that attention from them. And he mentioned that Ryan Day would say, wherever you commit, we're still going to like you. We're still going to be big Chris McClellan fans. Like, we want to, we want you here, but we still want the best for you no matter what. So I think he appreciates that attitude. I just don't know if he's quite ready to not take any more visits. And we'll see if that ends up happening this fall. But I don't know. I don't think it'll take too much more for him to actually shut it down.
I think what's happened to a lot of kids here, Nikki, and you can correct me if you think I'm wrong, is that they all thought going through the COVID wait that they were going to make their visits and know where they wanted to go to school. And I think a lot of them might have realized that, hey, this is actually a lot of fun. And I actually quite enjoy all this attention I didn't get a chance to get for the previous 16 months. A kid like Chris, as you mentioned, I mean, his offers, the big ones, the Ohio States, the Alabamas, they didn't come till the end of the spring. And at that point in his mind, he probably already had a set thought, like, okay, it's going to be Florida or Oklahoma. That's it. And then all of a sudden you see Oklahoma getting competition from Ohio State, from Alabama, from Clemson. Have you noticed with talking to kids, and again, you're sort of new to covering Alabama with Sound Free Sports, so I want to make sure we're clear here with people, and I've covered Ohio State now for about 10 years. The deference that Ohio State, Alabama, Clemson get from these kids is unbelievable, isn't it? Like they very clearly understand the difference.
Yeah, I mean, I see kids post like, "Oh, I was lucky to have been able to commit to one of these schools." Like, you just don't see that at other schools. I covered Arkansas before, and kids aren't like begging to commit like they do for these other programs. So it's a big difference. But McClellan, I think, he's got a big senior year coming up at Owasso. He's playing for a former D1 head football coach. So he's probably just enjoying this time that he has right now. And he's only taken 3 of his 5 official visits.
Yeah.
So just kind of keeping the door open.
And something I wanted to bring up was if this is sort of maybe potentially coming down to an Ohio State versus Oklahoma battle. I'm wondering, I know Oklahoma's defense is kind of going through sort of a retooling, a rebuild, if you will. And I know there's a lot of optimism at Oklahoma that this is going to be a year the defense kind of turns it around fully under Alex Grinch. Did you get any sort of sense of potentially Chris McCollum, maybe that's a reason he's wanting to wait, or some of these kids are wanting to wait to see if that turnaround actually does come to fruition?
I really didn't get the sense that he's kind of waiting to see how teams do this season. I think it's just about being sure that he's making the right decision. Because I think that if he was to commit to Ohio State, he'd feel really good about it. But then he would maybe still want to go take visits if coaches, asked him to come visit.
I think that's the biggest thing Ohio State continues to battle here with defensive line recruits, is that there's this underlying current that Larry Johnson is old and he's going to retire tomorrow. And like, it's simply, he's still younger than Nick Saban, but yet no one seems to talk about Nick Saban has Benjamin Button disease, or reverse Benjamin Button disease, obviously, because he's getting younger every single year. But what you hear from these kids about Ohio State is, oh, Larry Johnson is the greatest. Larry Johnson's the greatest. But what if he leaves? And I think that that's something that other schools continue to have to play toward. But I want to veer away from that. Did you get a chance to see Chris actually work out, practice? What was it that you were doing at Owasso? Because, for those people out there who didn't get a chance to see his film, or are wondering, why did a kid of 6'5", 285 pounds who moves the way he does, why did it take so long for people to see him?
Yeah, I don't know why that is, because he's obviously very impressive. When you see him now, he's really big. I think he's 6'4", 6'5", and they weren't having a full on practice. It was still while they were doing just workouts and conditioning to get ready for that part of their fall camp. But yeah, he immediately stands out. He's really, really big, but very athletic. The way that he moves, you would think that he is just, a lot lighter.
He almost moves like a defensive end, very quick feet.
They have plans for him to even use him at tight end at Owasso this season. So one of those types of guys. So I was very impressed, and I had seen him at a camp and he had dominated there as well. So I'm surprised that people didn't see him sooner, but Oklahoma is one of those states where you just kind of have to stumble upon them. And
that was the Rivals MVP camp, right? He was the MVP of the defensive line for you guys when you were with Rivals.
Yeah, I mean, he just destroyed everyone that he went up against for the most part. Like, I was doing highlights, and it was pretty much all of his were good.
Well, Nikki, I told you we're not going to keep you long. I want to let you get out of here, but we have to ask a question. So on Talking Stuff, brought to you by Buyers Auto, we do the perfect ending. And today you're in the middle of the show, so you don't get to be a part of the perfect ending. There is a theme song. It's being written by Zach. So Zach, will you ask Nikki?
That's in beta. I thought me and Berm going back and forth,
Yeah, we're trying to
make it perfect.
Try
to make a perfect song to the perfect ending.
But Zach, go ahead and ask Nikki today's perfect ending question, please.
Nikki, what is your favorite appetizer? And if you want to go crazy, you gotta give us your favorite appetizer and an appetizer, an Alabama player that relates to that appetizer.
I'm a big like shrimp cocktail gal, mostly because of the horseradish in the cocktail sauce. But I can't really think of an Alabama player that would I can't really picture any of them.
Well, Bryce Young is sort of a shrimp.
That's true. Like in my mind, he's a lot bigger than he actually is in real life.
Please,
so,
Bryce Young, don't
that's
be
a good one.
Still on the team, that'd be perfect. That'd be a perfect.
Bryce Young, don't be mad at me. You're short, but you're still a really good football player. The end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
It. Well, Nikki, thank you for taking time. And are you a tartar sauce girl, or is it more just strictly cocktail sauce?
Pretty much just the cocktail sauce. Yeah.
What's the St. Elmo shrimp cocktail? The really spicy. Have you had that one?
I've had it, and it was so good.
If you've been to Indy, you have to try that. I only did one of them, and I don't know. I couldn't handle more than one. So you're
clear sinuses.
She covers Alabama. There's a fairly good chance we're going to see her in Indianapolis in January. So, Nikki, thank you for taking time to join us. Have a good rest of your day and a fun weekend as we get back to football in person and games actually starting soon. So thanks for taking time.
Thanks, guys. Congrats on the launch.
See ya. Spencer's back. I know you were there listening, Spencer, the whole time because you're a weirdo like that. But what did you get out of this as you heard her talk about?
Shots fired right away, right when he comes in. There really is animosity between you two.
Yeah. Should we address that, folks?
Well,
Spencer, why do you hate Berm? Why do you hate Spencer? Let's go. Maybe this should be the perfect thing.
I want to know why it's weird if I was listening while you guys were talking for 10 minutes.
It's not weird. I was joking. Gosh, you're so sensitive.
That's why people think you hate me, Berm, because
quit rolling your eyes and being emotional.
Spencer, quit texting me bad stuff about Berm right now. Come on, man. Just bad start.
No, I want to talk about this actually before we head on to talking about the other defensive line targets for Ohio State in 2022. But I think it's actually funny because in the course of the last 3 years, I've had YouTube commenters suggest that I don't get along with Austin, that I don't get along with Tim, that I don't get along with Spencer. And I'm sure in the next...
The Austin one was something I was curious about. I asked Berm, we're in California. I'm like, so do you and Austin like each other? And he just started laughing. He's like, yes, we like each other.
We're like brothers. Sometimes I want to punch my brother in the face. Sometimes he wants to punch me in the face. But we love each other. We realize that we work very well together. Zach, you and I are going to have conversations on this show in the next 6 months where people are going to YouTube comment, oh boy, it's pretty obvious these two don't like each other. I like everybody. I just have this face that makes me look, I don't know, grumpy.
ELE from Semi-Pro. Everybody love everybody. Yeah, that's our motto. Everybody love everybody.
We're all a very bunch of strong-willed, strong personalities, and that's why we work well together. Spencer's coming along and learning how to be more demonstrative, and eventually you see folks, he's like my little brother. Okay. And sometimes you gotta pull your little brother along, but that's not that I love the kid. Love him.
All right. So
Spencer's got a huge week.
Me and Berm are like twins. I was actually told that me and Berm look alike, and I couldn't tell if that was a joke from one of our colleagues who said, all right, yeah, Berm looks like your older brother. I'm like, all right.
I mean, I am much older. Spencer's got a huge weekend coming up. Let's talk about football instead, because we don't want to, dive into that. I'm talking, Spencer, of course, I'm talking about all the practices we get to see, camp check-in at the hotel, et cetera, on Sunday. So,
yeah. So let's talk about Ine White and his recruitment, and Kenyatta Jackson and his recruitment, and other guys.
Sure, Spencer, why don't you navigate us through these muddy waters, okay? Because I'm interested to see where you take it. Who do you want to talk about first?
Well, somebody's got to take control of this show. So
Yeah,
I guess
absolutely.
I will. Let's
See,
let's
folks,
start.
he's getting more demonstrative. I told you.
See,
stay on-
put your foot down. There you go.
All right, let's stay on the inside. I want to talk about Hero Canoe. I want to talk about Caden Curry. He's a potential combo guy who could play a little bit inside, a little bit outside. Let's stay on the inside. Let's talk about those two and the way that you guys kind of are feeling your way through these recruitments. Berm, I'll start with you.
I'll start. I'll start, Berm.
Yeah. Yes.
So I mean, with Hero Canoe, that was I wasn't on with you guys yet, and I know Berm was talking about how he sees him as a 5-star. There's no reason he shouldn't be a 5-star, and that was kind of one of the first times I disagreed with Berm. I liked Hero when he was working out, and I think there's a clear personality fit between him and Larry Johnson. Like Larry Johnson, you could tell had this energy about him, and loved the kid. But we were coming off of seeing Christian Miller the week before, and I got the sense that, I mean, watching Hero work out, he's listed at 6'5", I think 245. Now I think I'm making that the weight.
He's at like 285.
Okay, yeah, I was just making the weight up. I remember the height. He's listed at 6'5", and I was talking crushed it. I was so close. And he's more of a 6'3", maybe 6'3 and a half. He's not quite as big as what he's listed. And then the week before we saw Christian Miller, and I mean he looked like more of an inside guy, where as to where Hero maybe wouldn't be as much of a stopgap for that. But
I think the reason
Hero moved a little more fluid, or a lot more fluidly than Christian, but
yeah, and that's what I'm looking at when I say, like, I think that when I see Hero Canoe, the same way that I felt seeing Mateo Uyangalele, like what they're working with right now compared to what they can get to me, that not everyone who's a 5-star in the future is a 5-star now. But would you look at with Hero Canoe, a kid that has just really been learning how to play football the last 2.5 years. He's not in the physical shape that you would expect a player of that national rapport and national caliber to be in. But the quickness, the way he used his hands, the way he learned things like on the fly from Larry Johnson, the footwork, the raw strength. And that's the thing. Like, you see him when we got to watch him against Josh Padilla, and the first rep against Josh Padilla, he just flat out rocked Padilla. I mean, you're talking about an all-state level wrestler in Josh Padilla, someone that knows how to handle balance and footwork and all those things. And what you saw with Hero Canoe was someone who is just barely scraping the barrel of what he's capable of. And that's why I'm so excited about his upside. But to your point, Zach, absolutely, the personality fit, that is a kid who fits at Ohio State, and a kid who Larry Johnson could mold into something really, really great. And that's why, to me, I think he's a 5-star player down the road. I don't know if he is now. Obviously, he's at Santa Margarita Catholic out there in California, so he's playing against Mater Dei. If you go back and watch the tape against Mater Dei last year, he dominated that game. And that's what you like to see, is a kid who just has like limitless upside.
And I think, I guess to add my 2 cents into this, Zach, I understand where you're coming from. Berman, I understand where you're coming from. I think I would place him in that very high 4-star, low 5-star. I talked about this a little bit with you, Berman, when we did our version of the list about Hero Canoe. I wasn't sure if he was a 5-star, but if you're going off potential, I mean, this guy has every bit of potential that you could possibly ask for. He's just starting to tap into that. And I think that's why he's the kind of guy that you could see on the 5-star line if more people get eyes on him, because of that potential. You know, we've seen guys before. Zach Harrison was a top 10 prospect. I'm not comparing the two, but Zach Harrison was a top 10 prospect that wasn't even, dominating his high school games. It was based on the raw potential, athleticism, ability to get off the ball, the quick first step. Everything he showed you that he could be a 5-star caliber college player, but he wasn't a 5-star prospect. Yeah. And I think that's where Hero Canoe can really make his move up these recruiting rankings in the On 300 or the other services, is the fact that he has potential that no one's seen before because he's just starting to play football.
And that's the difference.
I wanted to say,
yeah, go ahead.
The high 4-star, absolutely. I don't want to come off as I'm bashing Hero Canoe, because he flashed amazing potential, and he was probably one of my top 5 favorite players I saw this summer at the Ohio State camps. I wasn't as sold as you guys were on the potential 5-star. But
Yeah.
I wanted to get back to the personality thing because and Herb, you could probably take it from here. He just that personality fit is a big reason that both of us have him listed as in, not to jump ahead of the in or out game, but that sort of that love that Larry Johnson can see, and you could see that years down the line, you can kind of picture it as you're watching them work one-on-one together, that would be sort of a perfect pairing. And now I can't remember offhand if you took an official visit to Alabama. I know that's Alabama's a school that's been kind of creeping up for him, but I do feel good right now about where things stand between Ohio State and Canoe.
Yeah, I mean, he hasn't taken official visits anywhere yet, and that's the thing. He had visited 16 different schools in the first 28 days of June. He's got another visit that he made to Notre Dame, and then went back to Ohio State to get back at the end of July. It's a situation where you see a kid that is sort of figuring out what the best fit for him is going to be. And Ohio State's a really good fit for a number of reasons. And that's why he's in, as you said, in both of our class predictions. But it's also a clear line for the difference between a 5-star player and a 5-star prospect. And prospect means looking ahead to the future. And so to me, that's where Hero Kanu is in that mold for me. So that's why I really like him. And, as a player goes, that versatility, and we talk about it all the time. Ohio State wants versatile guys. They want those dudes that can play multiple spots. His footwork, his quickness makes him able to move around that line, and that's what I like about him. Spencer, what was your next thought there?
The next thought is just Caden Curry, another guy. You speak of versatility. I think Caden Curry has the ability to play inside. He has the ability to slide outside if you want a heavier package on the field. Like, he has an opportunity in the Ohio State defense to really become whatever he wants to become. I think he's the kind of player, if Larry Johnson gets his hand on him and begins to mold him, he could be a special defensive lineman at Ohio State. And I just wanted to see your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, comparisons can sometimes be easy or lazy at times, but he really does. I saw him a couple times, and one time for a game last fall. He does have that Nick Bosa feel to him, just sort of the way he moves and his body type. I don't know if you're seeing that. I can't remember if you've touched on
that's
that.
That's definitely the comparison I'd make. I mean, I see a kid that, and I've said this before on other shows. If Caden Curry was in Florida or in Texas, he'd be a top 25 player in the country. The kid his highlight tape is about as good as it gets. I know he's playing against Indianapolis competition. It's maybe not the same as 6A in Florida or Texas or whatever. But this kid is really, really good. And that's why he's been not just one of Ohio State's top targets at defensive line for the last year. He's been the unequivocal top guy for Ohio State since the pandemic began. I mean, this is a priority, 100% priority for Ohio State, because at 6'4", 240 pounds or so right now, there's a lot of really awesome moldability there with Caden Curry. You can turn him into a lot of different things. And you think, and Nick Bosa is the perfect combination of that inside power, but that outside speed rush. And, we saw Nick in his freshman year at Ohio State be a dominant player, more so than Joey was, more so than Chase Young was. And I think that Caden Curry is that type of player. And that's why Ohio State is going to go to the wire to battle Alabama, to battle Indiana, Clemson, Oregon for his eventual commitment.
So I just thought of this, and I was Berm, let me get your thoughts. You talk about him being that versatile player. I talked to Deshaun McCullough at the opening, and he was telling me about how Indiana's defense is going to be running sort of a 3-4 Georgia style SEC defense. I'm wondering whether, I know Indiana is one that's in Caden Curry's top 5, whether it's there or somewhere else. Do you think he could fit in that 3-4 scheme, or is he more of a 4-3 player, do you think?
I personally don't see him as a 3-4 edge rusher. I don't think he's long enough to play on that outside linebacker stand-up type role. And I don't know that as a 3-4 defensive end he really fits. I think where you can really manipulate his talent is putting him on the edge in a 5 tech, or moving him down to a 3 and moving him in that spot. So This is all of those little side games that people are playing, like with Curry, like with Eni White, the same situation. The 5-star defensive end edge rusher from Philadelphia. Like, how do you see this? How do you see yourself is a huge question these kids have to ask. But also, when Larry Johnson tells you this is how you're going to make hundreds of millions of dollars, at some juncture, you almost feel impelled to listen to him, don't you? Because that proof is in the pudding.
That's the and I White was like the one player that we disagreed on in the last in or out game, and to me it's because the last two, it does come down to what he wants. And his entire high school career, basically he's wanted to be that 3-4 outside linebacker combo guy who can rush off the edge. And I think Ohio State's maybe the only one or one of two that are selling him on being a defensive end. So it's like
right. But here's what I think Ohio State can do. Ohio State has a perfect response to that. And they say to a kid like Eni White, you say, hey, Eni, let us tell you about a defensive end we recruited named Brenton Cox. He was committed to Ohio State for quite a while. We told him over and over and over, you're going to be a big time defensive end. You're going to be a star defensive end. And Brenton was from Georgia. And Georgia told him, no, you're going to be an outside edge rusher. You're going to be a linebacker. You're going to be a difference maker in our defense at linebacker. And now Brenton Cox is a really good defensive end, maybe the best defensive end in the SEC at Florida, because he couldn't do what Georgia was telling. Like, you have to at some point, and this is a conversation I've had with many kids, many coaches, many parents over the years. These coaches at a place like Ohio State, and this is not to knock coaches at Indiana or anywhere else. Ohio State is the top of the mountain when it comes to the profession. If an Ohio State coach, especially one like Larry Johnson, tells you this is your best path to getting generational wealth, he's earned that right to tell you. And he's not telling you that for his own well-being. He's not telling you that for fun. He's not telling you that because Larry Johnson wants to make you do something you don't want to do. He's telling you that because Larry Johnson knows what the hell he's talking about, and you should probably listen to him. And the pride goeth before the fall for a lot of these kids. I'm going to be this. I'm going to do this. That's not the way the world works. You are who you are, and these guys get paid a lot of money to put you in the right position to win football games. So listen to the coaches in the college level if they tell you that you're going to be something else.
Yeah, and I mean, to go back on the original point of this conversation, like Caden Curry is, if I could build a 3 technique in a lab, I think I would build Caden Curry. Like the kid just looks destined to play that 3 technique spot with the ability to slide outside if he wants to, or if he needs to, or if he develops into that kind of outside guy. And I think Eni White, if you look at Eni White, like, I just don't see a 3-4 linebacker at all. I see a defensive end too, and I'll go way back. For a lot of our recruiting fans are younger, but like Will Smith, when Will Smith came out of New York, when he came to Ohio State in 2002, Will Smith was 6'4", 215 pounds. Like, he was a skinny dude, like believing that he had to see the future. And when Will Smith became an all-pro NFL defensive end, he was 6'4", 285, 290 pounds. Like, your body changes a lot, especially when you go from Philadelphia to Ohio State, where you're sitting in the nothing, doing nothing but eating and working out all day, every day. Like, you're not going to be 6'4", 220 pounds forever. And Berm, before we switch gears a little bit, the guy that I think like is a perfect example is Javonte Jean-Baptiste, who came in as a linebacker at 6'4", 215 pounds. And we saw him on Wednesday, and he looks 6'4", 6'5", 270 pounds. And he looks like he's completely tooled his body and become a legitimate defensive end. I mean, that's a guy who you can point to and say, you want to play linebacker, but this guy wanted to play linebacker too. And look at him now. He's going to be in the rotation on the best defensive line in college football. So I think that's
a guy. Yeah, I don't. You're 100%.
Just correct. More examples. We could roll these examples out like they're nobody's business, because we've seen so many guys who you might want to play one position, but if you're told you're going to be a really good defensive end by Larry Johnson, you're going to be a really good defensive end. And if you want it to be by Larry Johnson, it can be by Larry Johnson.
We'll be back in a minute with more talking stuff presented by Byers Auto, and we'll talk more about the defensive line options for Ohio State in 2022. Welcome back, folks, to Talking Stuff, presented by Byers Auto. Spencer Holbrook and Zach Carpenter and myself, Jeremy Birmingham. We're continuing to break down some of the Ohio State recruiting targets in the class of 2022, specifically on the defensive line. talking, guys, about just people switching positions and having to trust the coaching staff. That's why I think someone like Kenneth Grant, a defensive end, in nobody's mind, a defensive tackle at 6'5", 350 pounds from Maryville, Indiana, is so interesting to people. I mean, this is a kid who, first day of camp in June, right? June 2nd, we all walk into the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. We're like, oh, we're back, everyone. Hey, what's going on? We're, finger gunning all over the place. And then we're like, who the heck is this kid at 6'5", 350 pounds? And why is he running so fast? And I think there was a moment there for just a second where I felt like, after 16 months of COVID, waiting for the next horrible thing to happen to the world, and I thought it was Godzilla. He's huge. Kenneth Grant is huge.
He's a massive individual, and to watch him move the way he moved in front of Larry Johnson in a 40-yard dash was one of the most impressive things I saw in the entire month of camp. And I'm not saying he's one of the most impressive players I saw by any means, because I think he's a good player. I don't think he's like a 5-star type guy like a lot of the guys we saw at camp. But to watch a 350-pound individual move the way he moved in a 40-yard setting was as impressive of a feat as you're going to see in that month of camp.
Yeah, it was a 5.01 40-yard dash, whatever it was. And Brian Hartline, he asked for the card, the picture of the testing card. He's like, he sees it. Hartline sees 501 or there's 501 or 5 flat, whatever. He's like, just widen his eyes, like, all right.
Yeah, that was Larry Johnson's reaction too. Larry Johnson watching it happen live, like you could see like the saucers light up, like holy moly. And this is a 3-team race for Kenneth Grant between Ohio State, Wisconsin, and Michigan right now. He took an official visit to Michigan over the weekend of July 28th or whatever last weekend was. Been to Ohio State and Wisconsin for officials. And I think it comes down to this very simply. Is Larry Johnson going to say yes to Kenneth Grant? If he does, I think he'll end up at Ohio State.
That's all I got. Completely believe. Wow, I completely agree. I think he's going to be in the class. That's
Achilles heel.
Achilles.
I knew that was going to get brought up. I knew it. I didn't
even realize in the moment that you pronounced it wrong until I listened back later. I'm like, all right, yeah, he's got a unique New York. You gotta do your voice. Now you got it's going around now. Now I can't even speak properly.
All right,
so it's spreading faster than any other variant.
The Achilles variant.
Anyway, Spencer, next guy. Let's keep it moving here, buddy. Okay, we're pushing the envelope. Zach's got a date.
What?
Okay, Spencer, get the show back on track. Who's next? Who do you want to talk about?
Do you want to talk about Amari Abor, or do you want to talk about the guy that you brought up on the message board as a potential Ohio State target, maybe not an Ohio State target? Kind of a weird situation there. I'm going to
talk about anybody you want, but let's talk Abor first because I think it's a shorter discussion. It's Ohio State, Alabama, LSU, Oklahoma, Texas A&M. I don't know. The more that kid handles his recruitment, the less I think he ends up at Ohio State. I don't believe he'll end up. I think that's a kid who, in my mind, just is a Bama guy. He's physically a college player already. I just see him as a kid that really is more likely to stay close to home. That's why we had him out when we talked on the show on Monday. I just feel like what you see with Amari Abor is that he might be looking for a chance to go in and play right away as a freshman. And I don't know that Ohio State necessarily is going to have that for him.
It's also one of those things. I think he took 2 visits to Alabama this summer, and it's something we talked about when we talked about Derek LeBlanc. When he took 3 visits to Ohio State, when you're going on a visit to the school that often, that frequently, whether it's on your own dime or not, but especially when it's on your own dime, that's going to be more telling than anything. I don't think. It does feel like it's starting to trend Alabama a little bit there.
Yeah, I think that's one, and LSU remains in the mix there as well. And it's not a situation where Ohio State doesn't really like Amari Abor. They do. He's a difference maker type player. But if you look at the defensive end situation that Ohio State has, it's going to be used against them right now. Is that Zach Harrison's a junior, Javonte Jean-Baptiste is a junior. You got Zach Harrison, or Jack Sawyer. You got JT Tuimoloau. You got all these dudes, and I don't think that the coaches around the country are going to be telling recruits, hey, just so you know, Zach Harrison's probably going pro. Just so you know, Javante John Baptiste, like those are real discussions happening at Ohio State, but those players who Ohio State is saying to recruits, these guys probably won't be here. Those players are being told those guys are still going to be there at Ohio State. So it's this weird catch-22. And I think that's why Omari Abor may end up closer to home. One of the reasons why. And that's, the guy we're talking about on the Lettermen Lounge, the LettermenRow.com message forum, if you sign up with On3 Sports and Lettermen Row, was Curtis Perry from Alabama. I think that it's a player we haven't talked a whole lot about. And maybe we should have at least given a little bit more insight into his visit that he made. So he visited the weekend of June 4th through June 6th when Ohio State had all their big official visitors, right? And all these kids from around the country, including Omari Abor. And he wanted to be there for that weekend. And he made that visit on his own dime, coming up from Alabama for an unofficial visit, the biggest weekend of the year for Ohio State. And just to camp, just to work out for Larry Johnson. And I think that maybe we should have given a little more credence to that. Like, there's probably a reason you're doing that, right? Like, you must really like something about Ohio State.
I would completely agree. If you're going to make the visit, make the trek like that, you got to see something in Ohio State that you don't see from other schools, because it's the first weekend of recruiting in 16 months. You could have went anywhere.
He's a top 50 player in the country. And I think what you have to, or what I find interesting here, is that it doesn't seem like Alabama's really pushing for him to commit to Alabama. And I think right now, if his decision comes in August as it's expected to, I think it'll end up being Auburn. But Ohio State can sort of dictate how that goes for them moving forward. I think if they really went and pushed there, I think Ohio State would land Curtis Perry.
Fair enough. Okay.
Who else? What do we got before we move on to the perfect ending?
I think the last guy is going to be Kenyatta Jackson.
Okay. This is one where the YouTube users / subscribers / commenters had a little question mark, Zachary. Why? Why were they worried?
Because for so long it looked like Kenyatta Jackson was going to be a lean from when he was offered a year and a half ago, 2 years ago almost. I think now I can't remember the time.
It's been a while.
I know Ohio State made such an early impact on him, and then you have his teammate Ryan Turner who commits. So then everyone assumes, or at least hopes, all right, well, that's going to be a mini package deal there, and he's going to be able to get his teammate to come up. And now it seems like he's training Oklahoma. So now everyone seems to be like, well, this came out of nowhere then, right?
Yeah, the thing is, Oklahoma and Ohio State have been back and forth here for a couple months. He took the official visit to Ohio State. He took an official visit to Oklahoma. I think a lot of the momentum comes from the fact that he came back to Ohio State for that barbecue and bash last week, making the trip up with Ryan Turner. And I don't know why, but there was a subset, I think, of Buckeyes fans that believed a commitment was going to come from him shortly thereafter. But his father's been pretty clear that nothing is going to happen with him until after the Oklahoma visit that they take on September 11th. And so as I start to just kind of piece the puzzles together, that's the reason why I said that I thought he'd be out, because if that visit to Oklahoma has to be very important for some reason. And I don't know, maybe it's because he wants to go there and see what their new look defense is, like we talked about potentially with Chris McClellan. But the Sooners have been a big part of that for a while. They do actually really, really well recruiting South Florida. And they've got some really strong relationships down there in that area. And I don't know what happens with the recruitment of Kenyatta Jackson. Let's say Eni White committed to Ohio State in August. I think that there's a real chance that those two end up splitting at this point, not going to the same place, because they're sort of the same player. That's I guess ultimately that's the thought behind that.
I'm curious.
I just wanted to keep it
sort of a bigger picture thing here with, the last two cycles, Ohio State's they've been sort of a rival with Oklahoma on the recruiting trail, but they've won felt like every battle that they had with Oklahoma, with Emeka Ibuka, Travion Henderson, obviously Jansen Dunn and Ryan Watts. We all know what happened with those, but does it feel like Oklahoma now might be turning it a little bit, at least? We're talking about Kenyatta Jackson. and Chris McClellan, as a couple Ohio State Oklahoma battles. I mean, does it feel like anything's turning there in the bigger picture, or is it just sort of maybe a one-off? So Oklahoma, I know if they do turn things around on the defense, I don't know if we could start seeing a turnaround in their defense recruiting as well. I'm curious to hear what you've been thinking about that.
Spencer, from the football side, I mean, think about this. I mean, that as we talked about last week about on the Moving Targets episode of Talking Stuff, like Oklahoma is going to be telling every kid in America, we're in the SEC now. Like, it's different. The defense will be different. It's not going to be the Big 12. How much of an impact, Spencer, do you think that it's going to have on kids?
I think it could have some impact. I don't think it's going to move the needle entirely, but I think it could have a little bit of an impact. I mean, here's the thing, though. I mean, if you can sell the SEC all you want if you're Oklahoma, but at the same time, Alabama's going to sell that they win the SEC. So, I mean, Georgia's going to sell that they can win the SEC East every year until Oklahoma comes, and then probably thereafter, because I don't think Oklahoma is going to be winning that conference a lot. I mean, that's just personal opinion, but like, you can sell the SEC all you want, but when you're going against teams that like Ohio State and Clemson, their recruiting pitch is easy. Like, we're winning the Big Ten and going to the college football playoff. Oklahoma's recruiting pitches now, we're going to the SEC, and it's like, okay, that's fine. You're going to the SEC. Are we going to play in the college football playoff, or are you going to lose to Alabama? So, I mean, it's a little bit of a give and take when it comes to Oklahoma pitching the SEC, because you can pitch it all you want, but are you going to beat Alabama? I don't think so. Are you going to beat LSU regularly? Probably not. Are you going to beat Georgia all the time? Probably not. So it's interesting to me.
I don't know. I just think that it's one of these situations where we have a program that has been clear about like where they're at. Oklahoma, anyone objectively knows that they're a top 5, top 6 program in the country. The difference between Ohio State, Alabama, and Clemson at this point, and everyone else, and that includes Georgia, that includes Alabama, that includes LSU. They're sort of an anomaly because they won the championship 2 years ago. Those other teams are winning playoff games and not just getting there. And I think that a lot of those big decisions from these kids that are considering all these top schools come down to that. Simply put, like, we can point to winning games when it matters. Can this team do it? And until that actually happens, I think then you'll see Ohio State continue to beat Oklahoma in some of these battles head to head. And I don't know if Oklahoma being in the SEC makes that easier or harder for them, because, you know, as the playoff expands, Oklahoma is going to continue to get into the playoff as the 3rd or 4th SEC team, because that's how this is going to go. Like, we need to, that's a whole different show. If that playoff expands to 12 teams, people need to wrap their head pretty quickly around the idea that it's going to be 3 or 4 SEC teams in there, and Oklahoma will be one of them. So
8-4 Oklahoma, an 8-4 Oklahoma with losses to Georgia, Florida, Alabama, and LSU gets in the playoffs. So
I mean,
yeah,
at this point, anything's possible.
I agree. And Berm, Zach, both of you guys, while we're on the subject of defensive linemen, one of the guys that's flying super under the radar when it comes to Ohio State. He's got Ohio State in his top 6. He made an official visit on the key weekend, and then we kind of just don't hear much about him anymore. And I don't know if you guys can provide some insight on that, but a guy like Nick James from IMG Academy took his official visit on the first weekend of June when all of the biggest targets, it was almost like an invite only. He comes on that visit with everyone else. We start talking about him quite a bit. He takes an official visit to South Carolina as his other official visit the weekend of June 21st. And we haven't talked about him since the visit. So I just wondered, where did that go and what happened there?
Pretty simple. Go ahead, Zach. Go ahead.
I'm wondering if it's sort of one of those things where he's coming off the visit and there's it's sort of the post-visit glow, and then maybe he sort of one of those things where he was nearing a decision potentially, and then once he sort of took a step back from everything, he wanted to evaluate his options more. And I'm not sure if Ohio State potentially is looking at other options down the line, or I don't know what the exact pecking order is there. But when we have all these other when we have all these other options of Kenneth Grant, Chris McClellan, all the guys that we keep mentioning,
Hero Canoe, Christian Miller, Caden Curry, all these guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Spencer, think about it. He's also the last thought on the show, right? Like, he's not the last thought on accident. He's the last thought because right now I think the situation is that Nick James believes he can play at a place like Ohio State or Alabama or Clemson or Georgia or something like that. And he wants to play at a place like that. And so if you want to play at a place like that, you might need to wait a little bit longer to make your decision until some other things sort out for those teams. South Carolina, which is probably the favorite in his recruitment right now. Those guys are going to wait for you to sign on signing day. So you're okay holding off. They're not going to run out of spots for you at South Carolina. The other schools that he's interested in are still sorting through their top options. I like just combining words. I'm big into word synergy.
You say navigate.
Navigate, options. Let's just throw them all in that document we got going on. And so I think it's ultimately that the Buckeyes have other options, and they're trying to wait for those options to figure out their plans. And then they really like Nick James. You don't spend the money on the official visit for a kid if you don't really like it. And so but there's still a pecking order to life. There's still an order to everything. We still have prioritize.
Are we ready for the perfect ending?
The perfect ending.
Are we?
Let's get to the perfect.
We got to work on the here.
The perfect ending is here.
It can't be like the in or out theme that you guys. It can't be the same as that. We got
that one changes every time. Okay, YouTube readers, watchers, listeners. I have a query. I have a request for anyone out there who's a musical person, who's a jingle creator, a jingleator. Create us a jingle for the perfect ending, would you? How about it?
So not New Level by Future.
Correct. We will not do that. Spencer, what's today's perfect ending?
Well, Zach came up with the question. Well, actually, we had a tweet come up with somebody came up with the question for the perfect ending, and I'm gonna extend it a little more than even what you guys asked Nikki earlier in the show. I want top 3 appetizers, like your top 3, 3, 2, 1. I want to hear your top 3 appetizers when you go to restaurants. I have mine just easily in my mind. I'm ready, but okay, I'm going to go last.
Lead us. Oh, Captain, my Captain.
Are we going 3? Number 3 option, then number 2, and then number 1?
Yes.
All right.
Zach, go ahead.
You're starting. I thought we were going to have you start off to kick it off.
Yeah. All right. I guess I'll go.
He didn't he make the suggestion we're supposed to compare it to an Ohio State player?
Somebody else did. Somebody else did. I'm going to pass on that. I'm going to pass on that part. I'm just going to do my top 3. All right. Number 3. My number 3 appetizer. This is kind of a newer appetizer for me. I didn't think I really liked these. Now I've been just ordering them, and they're delicious. If you put a basket of fried pickles in front of me, I'm probably going to eat the whole thing. Number 2, if you put chips and guac in front of me, you're lucky if you get a chip if you're sitting at the table with me, because I'm a big scoop guy instead of a dip guy. And so the guac on the chip, if you have a sturdy chip that'll hold a lot of guac,
Spencer loves the scoop.
So here's the problem with chips and guac or chips and salsa, because spoiler alert, chips and salsa is going to be on mine. It's just you get to the restaurant, you're so hungry, you're starving. If you're going over to a local cantina or wherever you're going to get your tacos,
not a sponsor.
You just eat. Well, I'm trying to make a play here. So you eat 2 baskets of chips and salsa or chips and guac, and then it's like, all right, well, I guess I don't have to eat anything else after this because they're so addicting. It's like Pringles with popcorn in a movie theater.
Well, that's the beauty of it. Number 1, I'm not going to have a drum roll. I'm not going to ask for a drum roll. The number 1 appetizer, and it's not particularly close, is a big soft pretzel with beer cheese. Like if you think it's something else, you're wrong.
Strong finish there, Chives. Zach, let's hear yours.
That's a perfect ending. So, all right. Number 3 is chips and salsa. I think we talked about chips and guac and chips and salsa enough. I don't have to keep hammering that home. Number 2, mozzarella sticks. Mozzarella sticks, which again, we're going with things that are getting dipped. I mean, marinara sauce, or was it Berm that brought up at Lettermen Live?
I just see people
dipped in ranch is like disgusting.
Okay, it is disgusting.
I like it, but I prefer marinara, but I'm also a scooper of that because I don't like just a little bit of sauce on it. So like sometimes I'll run out of marinara, and then you got to go to the ranch, and I'm cool with that.
All right, and number 1, I was thinking about the Ohio State comparisons. My number 1 favorite appetizer of all time are backstory. When we were at my college, Illinois State, at my dining hall, shout out Tri Towers, at my dining hall, they had these mini tacos that were only available like every 2 or 3 weeks, right? It was rare that they would actually show up. So I'm going specific, those mini tacos from Tri Towers Dining Center. And that, if I'm going comparison, that's Travion Henderson, because they were so rare. They were so rare, but every time you got them, you knew they're going to be special. And Travion Henderson is a rare guy that that does not come along very often, but he's special.
Because those special running backs don't often disappoint. As long as they stay healthy, they almost always make a splash. I want to ask a question, because you guys know by now I can't just do anything without making it something else. If I said fried mac and cheese, cheese curds, and fried and mozzarella sticks, are those 3 appetizers or 1? Because they're all just fried cheese variants.
Just say fried cheese, Berm. I'm cool with you just going fried cheese in any form, because, I'm a guy who likes food.
Well, then I'm spoiling the ending here then. But fried cheese is certainly number 1 for me. Any variant of fried cheese is the best option. Cheese curds, white cheddar cheese curds from like somewhere in Wisconsin, forget about it. Mozzarella sticks anywhere, as long as they're actually fried correctly and they're actually cooked, forget about it. Fried mac and cheese bites, best thing that's ever happened anywhere. Number 3, I'm going with the soft pretzel. Spencer, kudos to you for bringing that into the mix. Number 2 is potato skins.
Oh, yeah, there we go. Finishing strong, Bram. I like it.
Everyone loves taters in all of their forms.
Berm, I believe this is our first ever hour talking stuff.
Yeah, we're gonna draw some ire from people about that, but hey, whatever. I enjoyed it. It's been fun. Spencer Holbrook, Zach Carpenter, Nikki Chevanel from On3 Sports joined us. I'm Jeremy Birmingham. This is Talking Stuff presented by Buyers Auto. Please head over to LettermenRow.com and continue the conversation with us there. And if you have questions, like I said at the beginning of the show, about On3 Sports, about our role with them, don't hesitate to ask. Thanks for watching.